Good morning. Today, for science, we are going to be exploring the volume of liquids. When you set up your own experiment at the house, you may set it up very differently than I have. Again, I've put everything on a tray, so in case I have spills, I have paper towels handy. I'm using a lot of glass containers and measuring cups. But you may want to choose more like plastic containers, recyclable containers. I found a lot of containers right around my kitchen. I don't know if I'm going to use these today, but I wanted to keep them out here just in case. And I've found lots of clear containers so you can really see how we're going to be moving liquids. But before we do that, I want to review with you a little bit about fractions. So a fraction is a part of something. So this fraction says 1/4 or 1/4, and it is one section out of 4 sections of something. You can think of this as a pizza or a cookie or whatever. This is 2 parts out of 3 or 2/3, and you can think of that as a big tray of brownies and you cutting it up to share it equally between 3 people. And I've got 2 colored in here. Now, the first thing we're gonna do today is figure out the size of one of my containers because it doesn't have a label. I wanna show you. This says 2 cups on it. This says 1/2 cup on it. And this one says 1/4 cup on it. So I know how big those are. But this measuring cup has lost its handle. And so I'm not really sure exactly how much is in it, although I have a pretty good idea. So this is how I'm going to test it. I am going to test it thinking of 2 halves. So here's a pizza cut into 2 big slices. And I'm gonna see if a 1/2 cup measure and another 1/2 cup measure add up to 1 cup. Let me show this to you a little bit more close up. So we've got 2 halves making a whole, and then we've got a 1/2 cup and a 1/2 cup equaling 1 cup here on this worksheet. So let's see. This is a 2 cup measure, I know because it says on the side. And this larger one, I know has 4 cups of liquid in it. Luckily, I had some food coloring, so I could make it so that you could really see the liquid. So I am going to very carefully measure out a 1/2 cup of this liquid. I'm gonna try to fill it right up to the top. There we go, and dump that in there. This is a good time to have a tray because you might spill. Now I've got 1/2 cup and 1/2 cup, and I don't know if you can see that. I'm gonna move this for a minute, but that cup is now full, so I'm gonna call that 1 cup measure. Now, when I pour the 1 cup back into here, hopefully it will still go to 2 cups because I haven't gotten rid of any liquid yet. All right, so now we know that this cup measure, even though it's not labeled, is an amount of 1 cup because 1/2 cup plus a 1/2 cup equals 1 cup. Now the next experiment we're gonna do is to try to figure out what our liquid, our 2 cups of liquid, is gonna look like in various containers. I'm gonna show you this up close. I've drawn 3 of my containers. This is kind of like a box-shaped vase. And then there's a tall container and a slightly smaller and skinnier container. So, what I want you to do is to predict what the amount of liquid is going to look like. So the first experiment is this kind of boxy vase. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour this 2 cups of liquid into it. Think ahead of time, how high do you think it's gonna go? I've already done this experiment and I was a little bit surprised. Are you ready? Ooh, all right. Now I'm gonna pour it right back in here. Still just about 2 cups of liquid. And the next container I'm gonna pour it into is this container. It's a bottle-shaped container. It has a very narrow mouth on it. So I'm gonna use a funnel. If you have one of these around the house, I recommend you use it when you do experiments later. All right, I'm gonna hold the funnel and I'm gonna pour, and remember, we're predicting about how high you think it might go. Let's do it. 2 cups of red liquid. There you go. What do you think? Now I'm going to pour this right back into the 2-cup measure. I don't need to use the funnel for that because my 2-cup measure is very wide at the top. And the last experiment I'm going to do today is I am going to try it in the smaller container. It's both not as tall and not as wide. Let's give it a try. What do you think? So if this container holds 2 liquid cups, do you know how much this container holds? Does this container hold more than this container? And what do you think? How would we figure out which one of these contains more or has the capacity to contain more? Those are some things you might want to do while you experiment. I want to remind you, you may want to use plastic containers instead of glass. I'm a grown-up, so I could choose glass. And hopefully a grown-up will help you set up this activity. And I recommend having it being on a tray and near a sink, or you could even do it outside if the weather is nice enough today. So I think that is it for now. So I hope you have some fun experimenting. Bye.